Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our webinar today, 3D printing additive manufacturing. We are going to talk about the technology, its usage, and the revolution which you are seeing this technology has done around us, saving lives, enabling new business models, redefining how we design the products. But none of this has happened overnight. The revolutionary change of 3D printing grew over decades, formed on a foundation of small but valuable steps. In fact, the first 3D printer was introduced nearly 30 years ago. It's in recent time, business have started making serious note of this technology and are incorporating it in realistic product. If we just talk about the recent past, in 2008 itself, the technology saw being integrated in a wide variety of fields from manufacturing to medicine and more. 2019 3D printing projects even became much larger in scale and much complex. Some of the real world applications from aerospace to automotives to chemical is all known, and of course you are all well aware of the medical use of it. From just being a technology of the future to rather a technology of today, this has far-reaching impact and shall have influence on the global supply chains and the global operations going forward. Today we have among us Mr. Jaspreet Bindra, thought leader, advisor, entrepreneur, co-founder Uncube, and author of the book titled The Tech Whisper. He shall be sharing some of his experiences and the usage of the technology and the revolution it can bring in. And our key speaker is Mr. Abhishek Kalra, who has experience of working on various aspects of AM technology. He has executed AM business and technical consultancy projects in almost 5 countries across the globe, ranging from South Africa to Mauritius, Saudi Arabia, and now he's in India. He carries advanced domain knowledge of AM in vertical of direct digital manufacturing, automotive applications, and lightweight manufacturing. He currently heads the application engineering team and pan-India technical operation for AM business. We shall also be joined during the conversation by one of the clients who are in the medical world, are using the product and supporting the industry. It's a true example how they are beautifully doing it. We'll be joined by Mohit Kumar later during the program. We extend our special welcome to the Center of Excellence team of Webel Waraj Fujisoft, our partner, and we extend our very warm welcome to Israel Consulate, especially Mr. Tejinder Singh, who has been the guiding force behind this program. I would now like to invite Mr. Jaspreet to talk about the potential of technology in general in terms of its impact on human lives, its role in rebuilding the nations, and how you feel technology will revolutionize our work going forward. Over to you, Mr. Bindra.
Thank you very much, Parminder. Thanks everyone for being here, especially the audience and the experts who are here. Thanks for having me. Before I start, I hope you're all, your families are well and safe in these troubled times, and you're at home and not venturing outside too much. Hopefully in a few weeks time from now, we'll certainly not be back to normal, but we'll be back to some kind of a new normal or a quasi-normal. And until then, however, it's best to stay inside. So what I'll do over the next 5-6 minutes or so, not more than that, the star of the show is Abhishek and his client. So what I'll be trying to do is give you a little bit of a business angle to technology in general, and just touch upon additive manufacturing or 3D printing in particular. So for many years now, I have worked in what is called digital transformation. And digital transformation really is using digital tools and technologies to transform or change your companies, either because your customer is changing, or because new technologies have come in, or because the environment has changed, or because regulation has suddenly changed to compel you to transform, or such as in this case, a quasi or a kind of black swan event has happened, which no one really expected, though a few people did predict it, most of us did not expect. And because of such a huge impact, unpredictable event, many things, the way we do it in our businesses and in our life will need to change. And technology is going to play a major part for us to tackle events like the current corona or COVID event, which is there. So, I try and define digital transformation really with three pillars or three legs, what I call the holy trinity of digital transformation. And Brahma, the creator, is business models and how you need to change business models when you need to transform businesses. Vishnu, the preserver, is about customer experience, about preserving or maintaining a certain level of customer experience, and obviously using technology to do that. And many companies do that exceedingly well, like Apple, Disney, etc. And then the third, which is Shiva the Destroyer, is about our people, culture, mindsets, which are usually the ones which tend to shortchange most of the transformations that we try and do. And if you kind of look at all of these three angles of digital transformation, which now is getting more and more urgent because of the this COVID pandemic. Around this, all of this happens largely driven on the tools that we use are technology. And in technology itself, most of you would have heard the word Industry 4.0. And I just want to spend like a minute on what this Industry 4.0 is, because additive manufacturing or 3D printing is a key technology of Industry 4.0. There has been an Industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and all of these have really reflected life. So the first industrial revolution, which happened somewhere in the late 1700s, was based because the mechanical loom came in, and all these cotton technologies which came in, and that kind of changed life quite a lot. And that sparked off the first industrial revolution. Sometime about 100 years later, in 1870 or so, the Henry Ford created the conveyor belt, and that, along with auto, sparked off the second industrial revolution. The third industrial revolution, which most of us have lived through, happened because of electronics and IT and the PC. And because of that, everything changed again, and a host of new technologies came in, and our life changed. And that was the third industrial revolution. And now we have just started, in a sense, the fourth industrial revolution, which is much more complex, but certainly far more faster, can be more beneficial, or can be more destructive. And the fourth industrial revolution, Industry 4.0, is based on these newer technologies, emerging technologies which are coming in, and have actually, some of them have matured to, like artificial intelligence or blockchain or robotics and RPA, or extended reality with AR, VR, mixed reality, etc., IoT and sensors, cloud, and additive manufacturing or 3D printing. In fact, some of us have started talking about Industry 5.0, and 5.0 is also going to be driven by some of these, plus some more new technologies like quantum computing, etc. And 5.0 is going to be a lot about mass customization, where you can, as a consumer, you can literally decide what kind of customized product you want from the factory sitting at home. And again, additive manufacturing or 3D printing is going to play a huge part in that. So I'm not going to spend time on 3D printing or additive manufacturing or AM, but just because Abhishek is going to get much more deeper into that. But I think the key difference, as most of you would know, is that most of our manufacturing so far, almost entire manufacturing, has been reductive, which is that you start with a large piece of something and you use machines and lathes and CNCs and various kind of stuff to kind of reduce that or take away extra material and produce what you want. 3D printing, on the other hand, is additive, where there's nothing and you kind of keep on adding stuff. It's usually using a 3D printer, and that's why it's called additive manufacturing. And there are several use cases There's a lot of stuff happening in the present, and there's much more potential in the future. And there are a bunch of companies, usually, a lot of automotive companies, for example, BMW, or even some of the Indian companies. A lot of the shoe companies like Adidas, etc., making their advanced shoes using additive manufacturing, or even Nike for that matter. Titan has experimented with it for making jewelry, and so it's kind of the formative years of 3D manufacturing, though even bridges and houses have started getting made from it. But I think it's going to, especially with COVID, it's going to become even more important or critical, because what COVID or the corona epidemic has done is that most of all it has disrupted supply chains. And so you cannot get the critical parts you want, or you cannot get the critical spares you want. And so an alternative is to build those through 3D printing at site itself. And some hobbyists have started even making ventilators through it, and masks through it, etc. And I'm sure Abhishek is going to touch upon that. But it's a very exciting technology. And as we go forward, I think a lot of companies are going to not only adopt this, but this working with a bunch of other technologies to become far and far more like technology companies or tech at core companies. Because the other definition of digital transformation is that how you become a company which has mostly business and technology sitting outside, to gradually move to actually technology being the core and businesses actually happening around that. And the 3D printing, additive manufacturing is going to play a large part in that. So my 5 minutes are done. I'm not going to spend more time because I want you to listen more to Abhishek, the expert here for today's talk. But even as I exit, I again want to come back and say that, look, this is a hopefully a once in a lifetime event. It's going to disrupt life as it has. It's going to disrupt our country as it has. It's definitely going to disrupt business. But then there are two ways we can look at it. One is that everything is lost. Stuff is disrupted. We are kind of we don't know what to do. Or the other way to look upon it is that such events happen, and how do we kind of learn from these events and build processes, build products, build business models which are new, using technologies like AM and others, so that next time something like this happens, we are far, far more prepared. I don't know how many of you have read The Lord of the Rings, one of my favorite epic novels, and some of you might have seen the movie by J.R.R. Tolkien. And there's a wizard there called Gandalf the Grey. And when one of the main heroes of Lord of the Rings, called Frodo, tells Gandalf that I wish it need not have happened in my time, and Gandalf says, so do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. And so this is the time given to us, and I would like you to spend as much as possible on learning and creating new things. So thank you very much. With that, I hand over back to Parminder and to Abhishek. Parminder, I think you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. You have really put things on perspective, and I think now it's time. Let's hear to Abhishek. Abhishek, it's over to you. The control is with you now. We look forward to your presentation. You can unmute yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, please.
I'm Abhishek, and I've been in 3D printing for about 6 years now. And this is a very strange time for everybody, as we all know it to be. We've never been so grounded, and that's where we realize that the ability to mobilize manufacturing from anywhere in the world and make have manufacturing technologies available that are easy enough that anybody can use it is something that we have as a luxury in this difficult times. So in the course of the next some time that I'll be showing you some of the work that we have done during this crisis and beyond this crisis. The idea is to show you how easy it can be for you to be able to use tools like 3D printing to disrupt the traditional product development and manufacturing process. Having said that, I would also like to say that while 3D printing is a great and one of the most revolutionary manufacturing processes that probably we have seen to date, it is a tool in the toolbox and not the toolbox itself. It's not a magic box. So there are some, while 3D printing comes with a lot of benefits and advantages, there are some inherent, I won't call them limitations, but setbacks which one needs to consider and revolve their process around it. But anyway, moving forward, so quickly, I'm going to be covering is what is 3D printing, and an extension of it, how it is impacting various types of industries, some of the technologies that we have available, and some of the use cases. Right. So let's first understand what 3D printing is for those of you who do not know. See, today and almost from the past at least 3 years, 3D printing is a very commonly spoken subject. A lot of people know about it. A lot of people read about it in newspapers, in magazines. There's a lot of content out on the internet about it. But then I very strongly feel, and as we interact on a day-to-day basis with businesses thinking of adopting something to improve their manufacturing and product development process, is we feel that while there is a lot of awareness about the subject and about the technology, there is a fairly limited amount of understanding. So the objective of me showing some of the work that some of our customers is doing is to build some sort of understanding on how the technology is being used in various types of domains. Right. So before I begin, this is a photograph I took somewhere in Gurgaon a few years back, where it says 3D printing is reprinting the future. Now, as a person coming from the industry, I obviously strongly believe in this. But then, if I think that does an average person, people who are not so technologically enthusiastic, or who do not directly or indirectly use 3D printers in their business, actually know how 3D printing is reprinting the future? So if you ask an average person on the street, does he know about 3D printing? Thus bringing back to the awareness and understanding concept, is that most people will say that yes, they know about 3D printing. But if you ask them that, do you know how 3D printing is impacting you personally, most people will not be able to know. And the whole COVID-19 crisis has uplifted this concept of 3D printing being able to impact people on a day-to-day basis, has sort of put things into perspective. So with respect to the COVID-19 crisis, and hopefully it will end, or at least come to a point where we can adapt to it soon. One of the first concerns that people all around the world, and of course in India, had was the lack of personal protective equipment. There was a lot of articles coming around that India has only some 300,000 kits available, whereas the uh, the uh, the amount needed will be in millions. And of course, with respect to the timelines that are associated with traditional manufacturing processes and the logistics around it, there was a very heavy need to mobilize every asset that could quickly produce as many as number of kits, or at least portions of the kits available, and have it in a fashion that it can be distributed in every nook and corner of the world. That is not possible when you have massive factories sitting in China or even in other parts of the world, where everything is controlled out of one region. You need every manufacturing resource that is available to be able to fight a crisis like this, where you need more and more quantities as time passes by. And the biggest advantage here was that almost all 3D printing companies, whether it be Stratasys or which I represent or other companies in the world, forgot their competition for some time and have started collaborating in sharing knowledge, resources, and design to be able to produce PPEs, masks, and sooner or later ventilators. So it's a project that Stratasys started almost at the beginning of the coronavirus crisis, since it hit China and the first. We have a very large facility in Shanghai and Beijing, and which is also our Asia Pacific headquarters. So immediately all our resources, close to 30 printers in both these facilities combined, started producing close to 100, 150, 200 face shields a day. Fortunately for us, we have materials that are biocompatible in nature and can be reused again and again as compared to some of the other materials that are being used today, which theoretically needs to be a use and throw concept. But nevertheless, what we also did is that we very quickly shared the design and the design principle to anybody and everybody who might have any and every kind of a 3D printer, thus creating hundreds and thousands of printers, printer farms around the world, whether it be people having small hobby printers in their home, or large corporations like Maruti and Hero in India, for example, who have multiple printers in their facilities, who started producing them and providing these kind of equipment to healthcare workers, frontline workers, and hospitals. And today, I think more than 200,000 such face shields are distributed across India, and the number in the world is almost uncountable. It's in the region of millions. The benefit that an industrial 3D printing technology brings to the table is on reliability. Although we designed these parts in a way that even the not so industrial or the not so reliable 3D printers can produce a fairly decent work, but we were able to scale up to the quantities because the machines that we predominantly use in the Stratasys network are robust and reliable. And it didn't take too much time for India to catch up. So a lot of universities, colleges, companies, and people in general who have uh, printers in India started producing everything from face shields to reusable masks in India, and this is happening all across the country, northwest, southeast, where a lot of our customers, even the traditionally automotive and aerospace customers, have sort of paused their automotive and aerospace activities and started helping the community to produce, whether it be masks or face shields or ventilator splitters. We took it a step ahead because we understood that even hundreds and thousands of 3D printers across the world will always have the challenge of 3D printers only being able to produce a certain quantity of parts per day, and then the cost per part is something that we cannot reduce beyond a particular point. So we adapt. So we eventually need an injection molded uh, uh, companies to give themselves time to prepare for injection molding so that these can be produced in the millions of quantities that they are needed. And we found that intermediate steps, like instead of producing the part with the printer, we can produce intermediate injection molding tools using some of our technology. Yes, these tools cannot produce the lakhs of parts that conventional metal injection molding tools can, but a few thousand numbers per day in a different manufacturing approach can be produced. So rather than having to produce 1,000 face shields, we started producing a few molds, and a few molds started giving us a few thousand face shields in a much more time and cost effective manner. This is a concept that the industry, especially in the automotive and the aerospace, and to some extent in the medical world, has been using as a concept called bridge to production. So this is a stage between your rapid prototyping or your very low manufacturing to mass manufacturing, where you sort of bridge that number between a thousand to a 10,000 or 100 to 1,000, depending upon the scale of the object, while you get your manufacturing setups or the logistics excuse me, setups ready to produce your final parts in the quantities that you desire, and set up the supply chain to deliver it in the areas as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Another thing that we realized is that one of the things that countries in the world are and will continue to face a shortage of are the testing kits, the actual kits which uh, determine whether a person is positive of coronavirus or not, because of course the manufacturing of this kit is controlled by a few major suppliers. And fortunately for everybody, those suppliers have opened up their design and manufacturing know-how to many people in the world. I was just reading in the paper this morning that India is inching the 1 million test mark and has now developed enough capacity to be continuously doing and scaling up the testing as and when required. But there are various countries, the likes of America, the likes of UK and Italy, where the crisis has gone to some extent beyond control, where the numbers of test kits required are much, much more than the manufacturing capacity is. So again, we took up initiatives of, because we have access to very, very fast technology that can produce millions of, precisely speaking, 4 million testing swabs per week. We've already started mobilizing our resources all across the world to produce these FDA approved nasal and throat swabs, which can be distributed and manufactured in various locations across the world as and when required, and those who have the printers, and start supplying them to local authorities to be able to start ramping up testing as and when required. So this is some of the efforts that we as Stratasys are taking with respect to fighting COVID crisis. And when I say we as Stratasys, I mean we plus our network of customers in India and across the world. And 3D printing has emerged as one of the major sort of heroes. I will not call it a main hero. Of course, the main hero is the doctors and the policemen who are working in the front lines, but sort of as a backup support force to help the community fight the coronavirus crisis. And thus bringing me back to the point that maybe beyond this crisis, everybody in this world will somehow get an idea of how the technology, which is so talked about and is probably the fastest growing technology in the world, is something that something that a common person is affected of. Now, of course, 3D printing is beyond a crisis. The whole objective of 3D printing is that it's a application agnostic tool, which means that while some of my customers, for example, are using it to produce parts for satellites, there are excuse me, also customers who are using these to produce parts for implants, and there are customers who are using this to produce parts for automotive equipment, so on and so forth. So before we get into the use cases and some of the technologies, for those of you who do not know and for those of you who are like, let's just quickly understand what the technology is and how it works. So additive manufacturing, more commonly known as 3D printing, is first of all a manufacturing process. As uh, our previous speaker said, that by far the conventional manufacturing process has been that you take a block of material, could be plastic material, could be metal material, and cut off what you don't need. Quite similar to how a sculptor makes a statue out of a marble using some sort of chisel and cutting tools. 3D printing is the exact opposite of it, where you produce a part by deposition or addition of material. The process works with your CAD file. So you might have access to any and every design software in the world. It doesn't matter. And 3D printing is one of the only processes in the world which just requires a CAD and no other specialized tools or softwares. So you start with your CAD file. It could be anything. And what the printer or the printer software essentially does is that it splits the CAD into a number of layers or cross sections. These layers or cross sections are, imagine that you have a piece of paper which is a 2D layer or cross section, you stack 100 or 1000 of them together, it becomes a 3D object. And once this is done, these layers are nothing but information to the printer so as to how it has to lay or deposit material uh, on top of each other. So that's essentially how 3D printing works. I'm sure all of you would have seen various sorts of videos on the internet and read various articles which has defined the process. Now, the most beneficial thing about 3D printing is that it has the potential, well, definitely is proven to have the potential to be able to act as a backbone to various other industry 4.0 manufacturing, industry 4.0 emerging technologies, whether I talk about robotics or whether I talk about drones or whether I talk about smart factories, whether I talk about smart medical devices. 3D printing has proven to act as a backbone uh, to most of these technologies. One of the very fascinating things that I like about 3D printing, which sort of keeps me driven to be working in this industry, is that it gives access of manufacturing to people who do not probably have the know-how, skill, or capacity to inculcate traditional, even low volume manufacturing process. So, for example, I am an electrical engineering graduate by qualification, and for me, it is as easy to produce a part using a 3D printer for anything, let's say a robot or a drone that I'm building, as easy it is for a core mechanical engineering professional. So that's what this technology does. It makes manufacturing easy enough for anybody and everybody to adopt it. While for large corporations, say the Marutis and the Hondas and the NASAs of the world, this may not be so much of a benefit, but for a small startup group of college friends who want to develop drones, or primarily either software or electrical people with very limited manufacturing know-how, it is a very easy tool for them to validate their designs, to validate their products, and sort of gives them a luxury to fail in a few attempts in order to perfect their products. So whether it be IoT and smart device manufacturers, smart factories, drones, which is one of the most used applications of 3D printing both in the industry as well as in the education spectrum, where drones can be mission specific yet generic enough. So you build modular drones so that you can use the same frame in a sense again and again, but you can keep changing the payload as per your requirement. Medical devices, some amazing amount of work has been done in the medical devices, which I'll show you in some time. And of course, in our more with respect to our more conventional industries like automotive and aerospace, which have been the early beneficiaries of 3D printing. I mean, I think if I would be able to relate correctly, the whole concept of bringing 3D printing was around the traditional industries of aerospace and automotive, because at the time when the technology started, these were the only people who were able to afford it. But today, 3D printers and access to 3D printers have become quite much cheaper and quite much affordable. And what we are seeing is that the healthcare, the consumer goods industries, and the small scale industries are sort of taking over in terms of rate of growth as compared to the automotive and aerospace engineering customers. Now, the industry is moving to 3D printing because of a few reasons. Uh, but the what we feel is the most important reason why customers are moving to 3D printing, and as I explained in the whole COVID-19 crisis, is that because it allows and gives freedom of to people who are distributed, let's say companies working in America with facilities and branches in India.
Abhishek, something with your audio?
rather than storing old. Sorry, I think my connection dropped in the middle. I'm just gonna restart quickly. Rather than rather than storing, especially the older spare parts, which may or may not be required in the future, going to the concept of digital inventory. And the most important, it gives them design freedom, freedom to experiment with various sorts of designs, one, and freedom to be able to explore designs and hence benefits and applications which have never been possible with traditional manufacturing. Advantages of this: you can move from a complex, multi-step, multi-material, multi-tool process to a single-step, virtually tool-less process. And you can move from design for constraints, as you can see in the left image, where you have to design your parts so that it can be manufactured using the certain available manufacturing technologies, versus design for efficiency. So this brings in a lot of advantage to both the traditional industries like the automotive and the aerospace, and as well as to the startups who, as I said, will have a very limited know-how of the manufacturing process. Now, if I have to split the application brief with respect to 3D printing, broadly the application can be classified into three categories. First is prototyping. Prototyping is essentially that you want to mass manufacture something. It could be a watch, it could be a cell phone, it could be a car, and you have various systems integrating into each other, and you want to test out your designs. So you build prototypes very quickly and very cost effectively using 3D printing. Second is tooling. So the example that I gave you rather than producing face shields, you produce injection mold tools and use those tools to produce face shield is an example of tooling. And of course, manufacturing or end-use parts. Now, if I have to talk about the split, and the split is consistently changing, I think 50 to 70% of the work still happening in the world today is happening around prototyping. The reason being that 3D printing is not a high volume game, it's a high value game. Though we are continuously enhancing and developing our technologies to be able to get to a point where we can compete with some of the traditional mass manufacturing technologies, but we have some time to go until we get to achieving equivalent cost and time per parts. Next, we have tooling, which is roughly 10 to 20%, and manufacturing is probably less than 10%, which is a big number if you look at that. Manufacturing is a $13 trillion industry. But what's happening and what we are seeing is that the trend of people buying and using 3D printers is consistently shifting from prototyping to tooling to manufacturing. And in the next 5 years, we are going to see this percentage almost come to a 50-50 between prototyping and tooling and manufacturing combined. As the technology grows, as the material grows, and most importantly, as the application understanding grows. And typically, even prototyping, the concept of prototyping has changed from simple design validation, where you, let's say, have a pen and its cap, and you just produce the prototype to quickly check the form and fit of the part, to machines which being able to produce parts which are not only functionally realistic but also look realistic. So for example, the tail light cover that you see on your screen is a functional come design prototype. Rapid tooling has also extended itself into the factory floor, where a lot of lightweight tools like jigs, fixtures, and assembly aids are being built to ease uh, the weight load on the workers, as well as to increase the line efficiency. And rapid manufacturing is growing from rapid manufacturing for customization. So today, a lot of car companies like Daihatsu or Mini Cooper allow its customer to customize the exterior or the skin of its car, which is a mass customization example. To the other end of the spectrum, where a lot of aerospace and automotive companies, and the face shield example being one extrapolated to the more consumer industry, is being able to build low batches of part without investing in heavy tooling, right? Now, if I talk about technologies, there are various 3D printing technologies available in the world. At Webel, we have access to two of the world's most leading technologies, which are fuse deposition modeling and PolyJet. So I'm going to talk about fuse deposition modeling or polymer AM. When I talk about 3D printing technologies, and this is just beyond these two technologies, the technologies are primarily divided into two parts. Technologies which allows you to build products for the functional and the strength aspect, and the other end of the spectrum is the technologies that allow you to build products for the visual aesthetics and styling aspect. So FDM is one of the technologies that is being used in the strength and functional aspect, because this technology uses materials which are the same or similar materials that are used in traditional manufacturing. So you have materials like nylon or polycarbonate or ABS, which for companies it's very easy to be able to install or use this technology and produce either prototypes or tools in the same or similar materials that they use for their traditional manufacturing, thus being able to define a very accurate link and analogy between the prototype and the end use part. Uh, we have close to 14 different types of materials in our FDM family. We have materials for general purpose prototyping, which is ABS and polycarbonate. We have elastomeric materials, which can be used for some very, very advanced functional testing. We have carbon fiber reinforced materials. And then we have some exotic materials which are approved for some very, very specific applications. For example, we have materials which are approved by almost all major aerospace certification bodies to be used as parts on aircrafts and even spacecrafts. We have medical grade materials which can be used to produce medical devices as well as can go inside the body. So on and on, we have a very vast library of materials, and the whole benefit of using 3D printing is that you can combine the strength, not the physical strength, but the application strength of these materials, as along with some design for additive manufacturing principles, and build products which have never been possible in the past. So if I talk about 3D, if I talk about FDM specifically, beyond specific prototyping, of course, FDM more specifically is being used, or 3D printing in general, but FDM has been used in the rapid tooling space. Rapid tooling, I will divide into two parts. First is mold tooling. So the example that I showed you on the face shield is a mold tooling example, and jigs and fixtures come into manufacturing aids. So one of the questions that I often get asked is that my industry primarily runs on metal. I produce metal parts. What will I do with a plastic printer, or why should I adopt plastic 3D printing? Now, while metal 3D printing technologies exist in the market today, they are very, very expensive, both from a capital point of view as well as from an operational point of view, and there are very few people in the world who can actually afford to run these kind of technologies. So there are methods. We've been using methods like sand casting and investment casting for ages now. Why don't we combine 3D printing and traditional manufacturing methods to actually what is not directly possible with 3D printing and what might be difficult with traditional manufacturing? So for example, in this case, what we've been able to do is being able to produce master patterns using FDM printers and then use them in traditional investment casting or shape casting processes to produce metal parts. A lot of medium and small scale industries across India are using this application very, very extensively to produce everything from door handles to pumps to aerospace and automotive parts, of course, where this again acts as a bridge to production, where you need those first 500 or those first 1,000 parts, too expensive to invest in tooling, uh, and too expensive to produce it with conventional methods. Similarly, another method of looking at it is batch production in plastics using additive manufacturing to produce master patterns, and then creating silicon mold tools to create end-use plastic parts using vacuum casting, And of course, an extension of this today, which we call as a flagship application, is composite tooling, which is primarily used in the high performance industries. Uh, but we have some amazing applications in the composite tool. I'm not going to go too much into the depth of this. Uh, but maybe in another webinar sometime in the future we can discuss on that specifically. And it is impacting factories a lot. When you speak to factory workers on the factory floors, especially the large assembly plants where thousands and thousands of say vehicles or objects in general are being assembled, a lot of the tools that the factory workers use are handheld tools, traditionally built using metal. As you can see some of the images. Now, of course, metal is a heavy substance, and in a scenario where a worker has to lift a tool, operate it, and put it back into its normal position, say once every 30 seconds or one every minute, the more heavier the tool, the longer it will take to operate it, the hence reducing your line efficiency. But it also leads to adding more people to a specific operation, because a tool can be too heavy for a person to operate on his own, as well as can lead to repetitive motion injuries. So a lot of companies in India and of course globally, whether it be Ford or Honda or Maruti or Ashok Leyland, have switched from metal tools to plastic tools. These tools are much more ergonomic, much more lightweight, thus increasing your line efficiency and reducing the risk of a health and hazard on the line. And various published examples, whether it be a tail light assembly tool or a windshield assembly tool or checking fixtures or gauges, or this lug nut starter tool for a car tire. A lot of these tools are being gradually converted from metal to plastic. What we use both in this, in whether it be a mold tool concept or a manufacturing aid concept, is a concept of hybrid manufacturing. We produce whatever is possible with the 3D printer and combine it with some of the traditional manufacturing methods. For example, in this image, you can see there's a lot of metal fasteners that have been used in plastic parts. So you sort of combine your expertise in both manufacturing process and together create the part that you need. Remember, the objective is to create a better product, whether it be only with 3D printing or only with conventional manufacturing or with a combination of conventional manufacturing and 3D printing, is up to the dependence, up to the requirement of the user, and how and how much his requirement requires him to use which technology. So this leads to reduction in assembly, reduction in lead time, reduction in weight, and of course adding in efficiency and reduction in safety risks. Moving on, rapid manufacturing is one of the fastest growing applications of 3D printing, and the face shield example and the mask example is a very good example of it. But just as a quick example, the whole concept of rapid manufacturing started with aerospace companies trying to produce parts for aircrafts which were low in numbers, has moved to the automotive, especially the low volume automotive, which is the railway industry to be specific, being used in India also by Siemens Mobility for repair and refurbishment operation. And then of course adding topology optimization or CAD optimization to produce much more efficient parts. So this brings, as I said earlier, also concepts of just-in-time production, replacing metals to plastics for lightweighting and on-demand production. And we're only going to see more and more of this growing in the future as the costs come down a little bit more, and as well as the demand for customized products is growing. Right. Some of the use cases I'll show from some of the Indian customers. Now, before I get into customer specific case studies, I'd just like to show you some tip of the iceberg examples, which sort of tells us the epitome of how this technology is being used in India and across the globe. So in 2014, NASA managed to replace 30 parts that were traditionally manufactured with metal with polymer 3D printed parts on the exterior of a satellite. These parts are nothing but little antenna housings which have to keep the antenna in a certain orientation so that the signals can transmit correctly. Before this, before 2014, never had ever a 3D printed part gone inside a satellite. Forget exterior of a satellite, which is essentially being exposed to outer space, where the conditions are as unknown as it can be. So the point being that if the correct material, the correct design principle, and the correct know-how is applied, 3D printing can be used to solve challenges which are unthinkable. The almost 100 plus parts are set to be deployed in the Orion 2, or has it already been deployed, which is an extension of the first project, where we have developed specialized material for the industry, which solves some of the post-processing or the hybrid manufacturing challenges that NASA had with respect to launching the first part. Coming to India, uh, entities like HAL or Center for Airborne Systems have been using 3D printing technologies of ours for years now, producing parts for all prototyping, tooling, and manufacturing applications. And ISRO has, which is uh, said to be one of the world's most efficient space agency, the pride of India, has launched many 3D printed parts which were conventionally metal or composite manufactured parts in their satellites. And the number is increasing as satellites are being launched. Every satellite that today India is launching has 3D printed parts, which earlier used to be traditionally manufactured part. Now I don't have an official number on this, but the number is in the hundreds. So the point I'm trying to make is one, that you can have array of advanced, very high demand applications that can be executed with 3D printing if the correct design and material approach is used. And second is that, contrary to popular belief, India is making a lot of progress with respect to 3D printing being used in these applications, as well as in the more, say, consumer or the more generic generic applications. And I'm going to show you some of those case studies. So the uh, 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 okay, some of the applications that I'd like to show you are, and I'm going to quickly try and wind this up, and I'm going to skip some slides because I think I am running a little bit out of time. So GTRE was one of the first adopters of 3D printing in India. They were back in 2008. They were able to create a full-scale 1:1 engine prototype for various projects and various sorts of application, and bring down the cost of prototyping down from an estimated of $60,000 at the time to $20,000 at the time, and most importantly, bring the lead time down from 12 months to about 6 weeks. Similarly, the Pride, one of the most talked about accomplishment in the infrastructure space, RWTI is a Canadian company that does wind engineering and has used 3D printing technologies to build wind tunnel models to be able to do wind tunnel testing before the statue is actually deployed using 3D printing. So if you can see in this part, there's a lot of small little sensors that are incorporated in the middle of the project. So this 3D printed part combined with sensors is put into something called as a wind tunnel. The wind loads are analyzed, and on the basis of that, a lot of decisions that are taken with respect to the positioning, the materials, and the construction of the actual statue or high-rise building is taken. And I'm going to skip a few slides and move to some of the medical applications, because I think we're running out of time and I have a lot to show. So on the other end of the spectrum, our other technology, which is PolyJet, which I'll not explain for the lack of time, is the only technology in the world that can produce full color multi-material parts, which today is being used in all these images that you see on the screen are 3D printed directly out of the printer. So whether it be automotive styling, whether it be consumable packaging, whether it be medical devices, or whether it be arts, heritage, and preservation, can be done directly in 3D printing, and we have this facility in Webel to be able to do some of this work. Now, I'm going to show only two case studies, one from the MSME sector and one from the medical sector, and then we'll move to the next part of the presentation. Is of an Indian small-scale shoe manufacturer who wanted to incorporate both functional aspect of his design as well as the visual aspect of his design in the same prototype. Um, So what we were able to do is we were able to incorporate the colors that they wanted to use in the in the traditional as their final product, as well as with a rubber like material, and reduce a 6 week sampling lead time, which used to go to China, come back to India, design revisions would happen, so on and so forth, to a less than a week process. So we were able to integrate the colors, the various types of colors that one might require, along with having it in a material which can actually be used in a shoe sole. An extension of this is that we did some tooling activity with the same customer, where we were able to produce tool to create the first 50 parts. And this is a very good example that I can share later with everybody. And then I'll show you some examples in the healthcare space. So in the healthcare space, we can use it for surgical planning. We can use it for uh, uh, we can use it for we can use it for surgical guides, whether it be dental surgical guides or surgical guides for implants, and we can use it for induced parts. And 3D printing allows medical device manufacturers and implants to do fitment tests traditionally, which are done on cadavers, to simulate the anatomy. It can be used for hospitals and surgeons to do surgical plannings. In fact, when the coronavirus crisis just broke, we printed a lot of models for showing the impact of the coronavirus on the lung, and it can also be used for surgical teaching, which is becoming one of the most important parts of adoption of polyjet technology, or the multi-material, multicolor technology in the world of 3D printing. Three examples that we have done in India are from cardiac surgery, urology, and lung surgery. In each of these cases, we were able to produce the anatomy both physically as well as representing different parts of the anatomy in different colors and materials. Might I also tell you that we have materials proven that that behave the same way as an actual organ would do. So if a surgeon cuts onto a skin and we produce the skin with a 3D printer, he will get the same kind of feedback. So we have close to 100 odd projects we have executed in the past year between cardiac surgery, urology, lung surgery, and many more, orthopedics, where the common goal has been to reduce the surgery time and to reduce the blood loss. Um, and medical applications like this enable doctors to perform surgeries in a much more efficient manner, so that the risk of surgeries, especially the complex surgeries, which might say, for example, for small babies or pediatric surgeries, can be very well executed if the surgeon is well prepared by use of 3D printing models. So just to summarize, what makes it works is that when you use 3D printing as a pre-manufacturing setup, you need a tool that can give you an effective replication of the desired product. Whereas when you use it as an end-use parts, you want your design creativity and design for efficiency to be able to overtake the constraints of traditional manufacturing, and thus you get a successful adoption. Now, just quickly before I wind up, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our COE. So in Calcutta, we have set up a very large, perhaps one of the unique in the country setup for additive manufacturing, to be both used as a training center as well as for industries to come and use our network of manufacturing. We have 7 printers distributed between FDM and PolyJet, and close to 30 plus materials that we can support you with. And we help you with not just producing parts, but application development, marketing support, consultancy, and advisory. Along with that, we also have design, 3D scanning, and reverse engineering facilities, and cybersecurity, data science, and embedded IoT lab. So on and all, we have facilities both from a hardware point of view as well as from a knowledge point of view, to be able to support students, startups, as well as the industry of any kind in West Bengal, and of course extended to the whole country, to come and use our facility. And you can connect with the representatives of WEBL. And with this, I would conclude. Thank you so much. And now may I request Mr. Mohit to quickly log in and continue the session.
Right, thank you, Abhishek. Now we have Mr. Mohit Kumar. He is the senior research scientist of Oxion Medical, an Indian multinational implant manufacturer and distributor of orthopedic implants with more than 600 implant types distributed in almost 60 countries and more. In fact, they are the ones who have manufactured India's first 3D print model maxillofacial implant. Mohit, it will be wonderful to listen to you, how you are supporting, your organization is supporting, but the only thing I would request you is that if you can keep the presentation to 7 to 8 minutes, we'll have opportunity to take the questions, because there are few questions which are lined up already for Abhishek and you. We won't have time for the questions otherwise. So over to you, Mohit, now. Please turn your audios on, please.
Hello.
Yes, Mohit, we can hear you. Please.
Okay, ma'am, my screen is visible to all or not?
Yes, your screen is visible, Mohit. You have to make your presentation in 7 to 8 minutes only, so that we can take questions for 5 minutes and then the session will close, please.
Sure, ma'am, no problem, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Mohit. I have been working in Oxion from more than 5 years. I am working as a senior research engineer at Oxion. So I hope you all are well and healthy under the situation of the lockdown due to the COVID-19. I want to thank Mr. Abhishek for providing me this opportunity to present our work to all. And as Mr. Abhishek discussed all the applications of 3D printing technology to us, I just want to show the applications that we have. I just want to show the projects that currently we are doing in our company in this lockdown period time. So I want to just introduce Oxion. Oxion is basically orthopedic implants manufacturing company. We are the leading orthopedic implants manufacturers like spinal implants, orthopedic trauma implants, and hip joints, knee joints. So okay, we are exporting our implants more than 70 countries. So we are like C compliance company, and we are also have US FDA approval for our products. So before 2 years ago, we have buy a FDM based 3D printer in our company. So we have buy Stratasys F170 printer. So right now we are doing due to this COVID crisis, we have designed a N95 face mask. Basically, it is a reusable face mask. So we are planning to manufacture this face mask in nylon material. So right now we don't have the this manufacturing capabilities to print the nylon mask. So we have used PLA material for this mask. So basically you can see the design of this implant. So uh, this is the basically the cover of this mask, and there is a N95 filter inside this mask and have the elastic strips. So this face mask we have designed in 1 day, and we have it took only 6 hours to print this mask. And right now we are planning to do the injection molding of this face mask, so that uh, we can produce the mask in the larger quantity. So this was our project for the COVID-19, and second one was the face shield project. So this was already we have developed the injection molding mold uh, for this face shield. So we are doing the production of these face shields. So we have another project in the pipeline. So this is the power tool. This is basically used in the drilling of the bones. So you can see this part. This is 3D printed in our FDM based 3D printer. So due to the lack of the resources So we was not able to do the injection molding. So we just do the 3D printing and use this part as a functional part. And we have used this power tool from last 7 days. So it is working well as a functional part. So this was really amazing. And apart from this, we are doing the pre-surgical planning for the customized implant. So because as metal 3D printing is a very costly process, so we need to check the fitting of the customized implant. We need to show these fitting to the doctors, and we need to get approval from doctors. So we do the 3D printing of this customized implant, then we do the 3D printing of this this facial bone, and then we need to get approval from the doctor. So we are using our printer for the pre-surgical planning also. So this is the same implant that we have implanted, that doctors have implanted in the patient. So now the patient is I think it's more than 2 years. There is no problem with this implant. So apart from this, we are also doing the hip joint replacements. So basically the process is same for this. We just segment the CT scan data and develop a CAD model. After that, we after developing the CAD model, we are design the implants, and we need to get 3D printed in plastic. We need to show to doctors, and we and get approval from the doctors. And after the approval from the doctors, it is get printed in metal, and after that it is implanted into the patient body. So here is another application, surgical guides. So this is the surgical guides that doctors are using for their surgeries. So we are doing this with our printer. We have done almost 5 to 6 cases in this lockdown period for this. And apart from this, we are using these printer for the bone models. Sometimes we need to show our product to the customer, and we need to demonstrate the product. So we are due to the COVID situation, the companies like Sawbones who are manufacturing these bone models, they are not sending the materials to us. So we just get 3D printed these bones, and we are showing the demonstrations of our product to our customers. So it is also really a good things for us. So these, thank you. These was the applications of the Stratasys FDM printer that we are utilizing in our company. So if you have any question, you can let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohit. That was really, really helpful. Ladies and gentlemen, we just have about 5 or 6 minutes. We'll take some questions. Abhishek, there are a lot of questions. One question is basically in terms of costing and the material. So, Abhishek, can you answer that? How the cost can be brought down? Because some people have that concern that Stratasys printers are very expensive and there's a lot of cost involved. So if you can answer that bit, and what is the material being used for printing? Because we'll quickly take the question. Abhishek, to you, please.
So that's a question that I almost hear on a day-to-day basis. See,
Yeah.
I'll break this as briefly as possible. I'll try to break this question. First of all, in both of our technologies combined, FDM plus PolyJet, we have close to actually 35 or 40 materials that are available for different kind of applications. Like Mohit showed, we have some general purpose plastics, to biocompatible material, to aerospace grade materials, and so on and so forth. So we have some really great materials. Some of these materials are materials that only we are offering, and only our products are certified to use it. Now, coming to the cost point of view, the reason why our product and material is expensive as compared to what the notion of the cost has been built up in the general market is because these materials are as per the highest industry standards and are calibrated and tuned to work for every product possible. Remember, the whole funda of 3D printing is to be able to produce your part as effectively and as efficiently as possible. So if some of the lower cost materials and the lower cost technologies that are available in the market are not able to replicate what you want to achieve with maybe because their mechanical properties are not good enough, or the reliability or the accuracy of the printer is not good enough, then it forfeits the whole purpose of using 3D printing. Having said that, there are various methods to bring down the cost of a prototype by, for example, making it hollow from inside, or using some of our draft mode materials like PLA and ABS. And we can discuss on project to project basis to figure out which is the most cost effective yet able to execute the application perfectly on the basis of application to application. And that's what we do. So remember, having a printer is one thing, but having the ability or the knowledge to be able to chuck out the most efficient solution is one thing. So that's what we try to do. Cost is of course relative. Today, if as Mr. Mohit said, if an implant has to be done where it has to replicate the patient's anatomy, and which will eventually lead to saving of life, spending a few thousand rupees extra for a quality solution doesn't really matter. So it's really variable. We also see where it's beneficial to use our solution, where it's not, and it's mostly on a case-to-case basis that we can figure out the most effective solution.
Right. So I think we have more or less similar questions, but yes, there is one specific with the food sector. If there is any special material for the food sector related thing, and then I think Abhishek, what everybody is requesting is some way of communicating with Center of Excellence. If some email ID you can share, and we close up with that because we are just having about 3 minutes. Over to you.
So with respect to the food grade technology, the materials, we have two materials which are US FDA approved for food grade. One is a version of ABS, one is a version of polyethylamide. You will use either of the two materials on the basis of the temperature that your facility is going through. So if you are working at temperatures in the tune of 100 to 120 degree, you can use the ABS material. If you have temperatures above 200 degree, you can use the polyethylamide based material. There is a chocolate manufacturing plant in India, for the reason of confidentiality I cannot name them, who are using our printer in this product to manufacture and pack chocolates. So we have the food grade material, and you can get, and the Center of Excellence has this material available, so you can get in touch with them. With respect to the contact details of the Center of Excellence, I think you can get in touch with you can get in touch with Mr. Debashish directly, or you can email to info@fujisoftwara.com, or you can go on to our you can just go on to our website, which is webelfujisoftwara.com. Just Google Webel Fujisoftwara, where you can go on our contact us page. Our office address is there, as well as a contact form, and our contact details are there. And you can get in touch with us through LinkedIn and other social medias.
Right. Thank you, Abhishek. There are a few questions which we have not been able to take. One is about the training, getting connected with Vara Fujisoft Center of Excellence. Once you connect with them, you can have the idea on what kind of materials to be used for your specific projects, doing research with them, doing special classes for your own institutes, inviting them again for webinars. So these are various activities you can do. So that answers a lot of questions. And some of the questions which were meant for Mohit, I think we are not able to take it up, but we have the questions, we will privately respond to you, connecting you directly with Mohit so that you can ask him about those specific medical questions which were meant for Mohit. So ladies and gentlemen, with this, we sincerely thank you all for your presence. And we are grateful that Abhijit took time and explained the things in much detailed fashion. And thank you, Mohit, for being here with us and sharing that how practically you are using the technology for the benefit of the humankind. With this, once again, I thank all the participants, and I thank all the attendees who have attended. If your question specifically has not been answered, don't worry, we will be answering that individually to you. Thank you, and stay safe, be home. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.